Centuries ago, Thomas More wrote that society creates the conditions that push the poor to commit crime and then punishes them for doing so. Here are some disturbing statistics. 25% of the world's prisoners are in the United States. The total U.S. prison population rivals that of the population of Houston and Chicago, and would be the 5th largest city in the nation.
Each year, we spend $68 billion on education and $80 billion on prisons. Whether you are rich or poor determines if you spend time in jail for any crime.
African Americans comprise 12% of the population and 33% of those imprisoned. But there is good news. These numbers are improving. Nonetheless, we have a complex, deeply rooted social problem.
For this BCR episode, we are talking to 2 former inmates of New York State's Otisville Medium Security Prison, Sam Johnson and Christopher Lee, who were enrolled in the prison-to-college pipeline at John Jay College. And we will ask them about their lives since being paroled.
And I have also taught in the prison-to-college pipeline program last semester. And so with that introduction, here we go. Okay, here we are. Welcome, Chris and Sam, to barcrawlradio. We usually record out of a bar, but today we're not at a bar due to scheduling issues. We are at the John Jay College English Department podcast studio,
okay.
Which
Yes,
is kind of weird for us because we need to have a drink in front of us.
I know, right? I usually have a...
I know, not more than just water.
We got water.
Yeah, cheers.
Water's better for you.
Right.
It's true. You're right.
And we want to own up to the fact that this is a second go at this,
Okay.
because we had audio problems when we tried to do this about, a month and a half
ago
ago?
or so?
Something like that.
Yeah. And we are totally appreciative to you and Richard, who I interviewed earlier.
Okay.
Lazzarini?
What is that?
Richard Hoehler.
Oh,
Richard Hoehler, your
sorry.
teacher. All right.
Yeah.
I
guess
about
that's-
Aliasa.
Oh, no.
That's someone else, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Sam Johnson and Christopher Lee, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to
back
be here.
BCR,
Thank you,
yes.
thank you.
We understand you were recently released from the Otisville State Prison, but that your experience does not define the total of who you are.
Absolutely not.
Let's get a sense of you two as a person, each of you as a person, where you're from, what your interests are, what sort of films or books you like, or sports.
What are you into?
Okay.
Sam, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start this off again. Well, my name is Sam
Yeah, because we've been here before.
Yeah, it's like purgatory or deja vu all over again.
Deja vu all over again, yeah.
Yeah, why should I write a new script?
Yeah.
All
right, so my name is Sam Johnson. What are my likes? I like a lot of things. I like working out. I like comic books. I love gummy candy. I love video games. And I like cartoons. And I love training people. And I love
because
food.
you're a trainer.
Absolutely, personal trainer.
That's right. You're pumped.
Yeah, a little bit.
And you came from work, so
Yes, I had to run a long way.
All right,
here.
you got.
What was the other part of the question?
That's it. You know what you're interested in. You like to. I remember you like to bake.
Oh yeah,
right?
I know how to bake. I like to bake from time to time. I know how to crochet. And where I'm from, I was born originally. I'm from Harlem. Right now, I live in the Bronx, and that's pretty much it. I live a boring life now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And is that good? Is that a good thing? A boring life.
Boring is good.
Okay.
You got to ease in the excitement from time to time,
Yeah.
but not too much excitement. Boring
right.
is good.
All right.
So you
Okay.
spend a lot of your time working.
Yeah, I try to.
That's
I
good.
want to. Yeah.
Good. Chris.
All right. If you guys didn't know, my name is Christopher Lee. I am originally from Harlem, New York, Lincoln Houses to be exact. Spent a great deal of my youth inside of the penitentiary. I've been home now a little bit short of 4 months. And my aspirations upon being released were to improve on my decision making so that way I could assist in the development of the youth. I feel as if when you make a bad decision, it should be up to you to try to fix it for someone else before they end up walking in your footsteps. I have aspirations to be a musician, interested in R&B, rap, modeling, Also a part of an acting out company, a company called Acting Out with the great Richard Hoehler down at HB Studios. And
So the name of that company is Acting Out.
Yes, Acting Out.
Do you have a production coming up?
Actually, we do. I think he actually mentioned there might be something coming in December, yes. Yeah. But there's a possibility of something coming before that, like a pre-show.
Okay.
Yeah, but definitely something by the end of this year.
And I did talk to him earlier, and he did mention.
Yes, Fathers and Sons.
Right, exactly. And that's his play.
Absolutely. A play that we actually were a part of while we were incarcerated. So he's going to do that over now in society for people to get to see it. And
that'll be great. We'll come. For sure.
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
Right. Love to have you there.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't put this on the script, and it just occurred to me, you know, I mean, you guys were in prison, right? I mean, that seems so strange, and I taught at a prison at Otisville, so I kind of have a sense, you know, of what that place looks like and all. Do you ever share that with others, or is it something that you'd rather not, and, you know, keep it to yourself?
Well, I do share with people that have been in prison, because I feel like, I guess people should know.
Why?
Or if I'm building a relationship with somebody, I think it's a part of the trust foundation, and just letting somebody know, like, listen, I have been incarcerated, you know. So a lot of people have like a certain level of bias. Some people are like, okay, I live a certain type of lifestyle. I don't want to associate with anybody who's lived a lifestyle that's opposite of mine. So I think it's out of respect that I let the person know, it's like, okay, listen, before we even go any further, I want to let you know that I have done time before, and, you know, I'm just letting you know out of respect. So.
And do you get the other response that is, hey, no problem?
Yeah, so far so good. Like, nobody's been really mean about it. So they just asked me what I went inside for and how was it. But then there was one little lady I tried to get to know a little bit more better on an intimate level, where she just kept questioning my mental health.
Okay.
So after a while, you said, okay.
Not a keeper.
Yeah, I was like, okay, you know what, that's it.
Yeah.
How about you, Chris?
So for me, I feel like when it comes down to prison or a conversation about it, I don't necessarily feel how he feels necessarily. However, I think it's important, though. I think because it's a part of my story. We talk a lot about his story, so I like to talk about my story. And because I feel like I want to be the person that's responsible for shifting the narrative. I want to turn the tables. I want people to understand that, know that it's not okay necessarily to go to prison. I don't promote that. However, I went, and fortunately enough, I'm better for it. So I don't bring it up like, hey, I went to prison. You know, or I don't know, there's a sign on me that says that I went to prison.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's my responsibility when it is brought up for me to tell you that I did, and now look at me. I'm better. Not necessarily for prison, just because I've taken up the time to become a better person. Okay. That's how I feel.
Sounds fair. Yeah. So I have a question for both of you. And this is a question from a Maryland public defender that we know. Okay. And we asked him what he would want to ask you.
Okay.
What do you feel that your prison experience? Do you feel that your prison experience was a proper consequence for your social misbehavior?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to answer that question, because
I got an answer for you guys.
But me, I was 16, 17 years old when I initially committed my crimes, and I got sentenced to 10 years and from that I was in the county jail. I was in the adolescent section. Then when I went upstate, I was with grown men. So I just find it funny that, hopefully I'm not sidetracking from the answer or the question, but I just find it funny that in the United States that you have to be 21 years old to buy cigarettes and alcohol. But on the flip side, when you're on the other side, or the criminal justice side, at any age you could be tried as an adult, and scientists say that children or teenagers aren't full. The brain doesn't fully develop until you're
Right.
like 25, 26, and
Right.
you have somebody on the opposite end of you looking down upon you and not taking that into consideration, who could say, well, hey, here's 10 years and
Right.
take that, and I want you to think about the crimes and whatever, and not knowing that you're removing me from society.
Well,
Granted,
removing it from your family too.
Yeah, removing me from my family,
Your
and you
friends.
put me into a hostile, toxic environment where I have to grow up extremely fast and like fend for myself. I don't have
Yeah.
anybody there, so
Right.
I guess this one I'm gonna say no. I think there could have been other ways to go about it.
What
Okay,
would those
that's
other
fair.
ways be?
Like,
Have you thought about that? I mean, what would have been more appropriate for a 16-year-old that did the things you did?
me and Chris was inside. We took political science with a lady named Professor Christina Dawkins. Right, and so we learned about restorative justice and punitive
Okay.
justice.
Okay.
So I guess we could have went the restorative justice route. Let me atone for my sins and pay for it through a different way. If you understand what I'm saying, the United States spends what, billions upon billions of dollars upon the military and prison,
Right.
and those funding could go towards something else. Maybe individuals who are teenagers who commit crimes could go learn a trade or something, put them through school, whereas it's stimulating the economy and also teaching them about self-worth and giving them some type of trade or something, an education, instead of them wasting away upstate.
So part of the restorative justice is sometimes bringing together the people that were
Harmed.
Yeah.
The
Would you
person
have-
who caused harm and the person who has harmed, and just find a way that, and it just coming together and finding different ways that it could have been dealt with.
you would have been willing to
Absolutely. I
Talk
think
to
I'm
the-
very open-minded enough to do that.
yeah.
Or would have been open-minded enough back then to do that.
But our system doesn't avail you of that.
Didn't offer it.
No,
yeah.
this is in Sweden, so
Yeah.
or Australia, so we can't do that
Yeah.
over here.
All right.
Chris, what about you?
So I'm gonna say that I don't believe that it was a fair exchange, based upon the fact that you go to court, for however long it might last. For me, I was found guilty by a jury of my peers after 8 months of incarceration. Evidence not really outstanding. And it's like this. There are a lot of things that go on, right? So if we're talking about this,
Yeah.
I guess we just got to be frank about this. A jury of your peers. So you guys are asking us a lot of questions. What does that mean, though?
Right.
What would your peers consist of?
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I originally found myself incarcerated at 17 years of age. Upon just being released now, I was 22. A jury of my peers would have consisted of individuals that are in that age group.
Right.
That's not the type of trial that I was offered. However, since we're not talking about that, we're talking about me being incarcerated. It wasn't a guarantee that I would have went up north and served that sentence and became better, because it's not set up for you to win. So they put you in an environment where, as Sam stated, that's very hostile. It's mostly unwavering in negativity. The ability for you to find some level of solace, it may come for you probably on a visit. And as soon as you come off a visit, you're strip searched. So there are rules set in place that you have to be strip searched, because there's a possibility that you could be carrying contraband being a weapon or drugs or anything of, in that realm. The fairness is not there. It doesn't exist. You become more hardened than you could have ever become, because you're detached from your family. You become an enigma. They love you. They care about you. But they don't really understand you anymore. They don't get how you could have done such a thing, and then the things that you're actually going through while you're incarcerated.
Yeah.
So you have to seek that outlet. And if you're in a facility where officers have it out for you for a number of reasons, maybe because they're having a bad day, their upbringing was terrible, or they feel it's their due diligence to make your life a living hell because you've committed a crime to begin with. So now I'm being punished on every level.
Right.
I've been found guilty by a jury of my peers, sentenced to a certain amount of years, right? And upon me wanting to be better, because now I realize my decision making could have been better at the time, I have to deal with an officer who is just that, a correctional officer, and making me out to be some level of a monster. I don't see how that could be fair for you. And you're hopeful that upon you release, that people that once associated with you were still willing to talk to you, because it's like, is he no more, isn't he? You know, so I think they got a lot of work to do. And they could start by speeding up this process of closing Rikers Island down, because that place in itself has got to be one of the worst environments that I've ever been to ever. Fortunately enough, though, I had the mental capacity to make it out. Because prison isn't what you see on TV. It's not always so physical. If you don't have this,
meaning your brain.
Yeah. You're gonna. It's not just.
Chris is
having
pointing
a
to
brain.
his
We have
mental
a brain.
intelligence.
But the ability to understand that it's more mind over matter. Like it's you probably gonna have to know how to fight. That would be something that you should probably look into upon being in prison, because you fight over. And this is being serious. Going back to adolescence.
Soups.
Well,
cookies.
soups, yeah, but not as much as you fight over a chair. So we're sitting down right now, right?
Right.
This is a luxury. You know, you fight over chairs. You fight over using the phone. There's 2 phones for 50 guys. How is that supposed to work?
Right.
What do you expect to come from that? You know, there's 1 TV for 50 guys.
Right.
And this is in a dormitory setting. And a maximum security, there's even more people on the gallery still for 1 phone. You're allotted like 10 minutes. Like, how's that supposed to work? 80 guys are going to use the phone?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
You know, so.
This is gross punishment.
Of course it is.
It's not about restoring
Absolutely
you.
not. And if you believe that, then you're drinking the wrong cup.
Right. And if you talk about correction officer.
It's corruption officer.
Corruption officer.
Yeah.
So you were at Rikers.
Absolutely.
Both of you?
Absolutely.
So to get to Otisville, which is it's not as
it wouldn't be as
maximum.
No, it's a medium.
It's a
That's
medium
the-
security.
It's a
Medium
medium
B.
A.
So what
Medium
did you what did you
I
do to
can't
get
remember.
to what did you do to get to Otisville?
Okay, so I'll say this, right? I've had the opportunity, and I say this a lot. Unfortunately being incarcerated twice. And the fortunate aspect comes for me, and I only can speak for myself, because of the amount of time that I had to think and become better as a person. And no form of fashion do I promote prison as something that you would need to be better. However, I used my time away to become someone that was smarter and wiser, and I made better decisions. You start out because of your sentence. I was originally sentenced to 13 years in prison, running concurrent with 7, and a 2 to 4. 2 to 4 years. So you serve 2 and have the opportunity to appear in front of a board, which is like 3 commissioners, and they make the decision based upon your behavior, your access to certificates and things of that nature to release you. And
These would be educational certificates?
they can be. They could be like we were in acting class. Anything that's better than what you were once doing.
Okay.
So if you acquire a high school equivalency, if you're fortunate enough to acquire a college degree, then they look at all of those types of things. So I started out in a maximum security facility because of the amount of time that I had, and it was a max A, where it's actually more secure. So there's actually more wires, more fences, and there's a wall, I should say, not even fences. Fences are in the yard, but there are walls. And upon you staying out of trouble for, I think in a max it's like a year, you start out up top, you have the ability to have what they call a preference transfer. Preference would be because of where you're from. So me coming from New York City, me getting closest to the city as possible would be because of good behavior, which is not easy to do when you're 22. I was 23 when I was sentenced to this time. Not that far removed from the guy that I once was while I was in society, because prison is like an extension of the place that I grew up at. So I was already familiar with it because I'd been there, and I think that I wanted to stay out of trouble. I think that I wanted to be better, and it's not that easy though. When there's this much testosterone that can't really be issued in any other direction, because it's heavy on the be quiet. Now you're gonna hear that a lot. Like, be quiet. You're making too much noise. What does that even mean?
Who's telling you to be quiet?
Officers, right? Staff members, but mostly officers. They come to work for their 8 hours, and a lot of them, I don't know what it is that they're dealing with. I like to use the terminology pseudo. I think there's this pseudo sense of authority, pseudo sense of importance, where they have the ability.
Well, it's not pseudo at all. They've got authority over you when you're there.
So to an extent, if you know something, right? Say for instance, you know rules. Why then is it a necessity for me to continue to tell you what to do? Only because I believe that I'm someone that I'm not. If I told you, I said, hey, Alan, when you come in, don't bring that red cup with you, right? you don't bring that red cup with you, but I feel the need to tell you that every day. Why would I do that? Like, you're dehumanized at every level by being in prison. And of course, it's at the top that makes it that way. How then are you supposed to return to society and be better? That's not guaranteed. So how could that be fair upon you being sentenced to a sentence? How is that possible? You have to hope that you have the ability to make it to the end of your sentence with more than you came in there with.
Right.
You know? But so to get back on track and to finish answering your question, you start out in the max depending on your sentence, depending on your crime. You don't necessarily have to have a long sentence. It could just be what you're incarcerated for, probably something violent. You could have a high profile case. Maybe you made the news and they feel it's the need for you to be watched more. And upon you staying out of trouble for a certain amount of time, you'd end up with a preference transfer, go closer to the city, and then immediately, or eventually I should say, your classification will drop, which is how I ended up being in Otisville and then finding myself back in society.
And being able to go to the prison to college pipeline program
Absolutely.
through John Jay College.
Did you know about it before you went to Otisville?
So it didn't, no, let me not say this. I was about to say it didn't exist, but it did. It was there. I don't think when I was where I was at, my mind state was that focused enough to think that I could be someone that would attend college and prison. So I didn't have much of an interest until I ended up in that environment. And case in point, that's why we're doing this podcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. How about you, Sam?
From Rikers Island, well, there's the intake process going through downstate and or Ulster, depending on where you at. And the intake that's where you get fingerprinted. They give you your number. You get a bunch of immunization shots, a bunch of STD testing is arduous, and you get an education test. And from there, I was in downstate for about 9 days, and 10 days. Then I had my first facility was Katsaki, and since I was so young, I was 17. Every time that I had went to my counselor to ask about a transfer, she said I can't go anywhere, because I would have to be 21. Inside, you have to be 20, depending on who your counselor is, which is a total bullshit. You have complete control over where you want to go when it's that time. I think is law, right? However, she just kept telling me you have to wait till you're 21. And Katsaki was the hardest prison that I've ever been in, because you're locked in about 23 hours.
Nah, maybe like 20.
Probably
20. 20 hours.
Okay, about. Real, I'm just going on a limb and saying anywhere between 18 and 20 hours you're locked in.
And by yourself in your cell.
But by yourself. A lot of people compare it to the box. All right, it's like solitary confinement. Katsaki is solitary confinement with property, because the cells there are different. They don't want you talking on the gallery. You can't talk to your neighbor. So you just need books, a lot of love from home, and something to keep your mind occupied, because you will go crazy. From there, I had a new counselor, and they said I could go on a transfer. So I went to Sing Sing from Sing.
Wait, before we go on, this idea of solitary confinement, I've read that it's probably the most cruel kind of punishment.
Yeah. I read in the GQ too, they said studies shown that humans by nature are, how you say this, they have to interact. Humans have to interact.
We're social beings.
We're social beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And that when you take us away from that, then it does play a level of, it does something to the psyche of the individual.
Do you ever revisit that? Does that ever come back to you, being alone in that cell? How big was it?
What was this, 8 by 10?
Something like that.
It's not a big cell.
8 by 10?
Yeah, something.
8 by 10 sounds about right.
I was able,
wrong,
in some cells, I was able to stand up in the center and put both my palms on the wall or fingertips on the wall. It was small. It wasn't that much.
And then you could take a few steps one way, a few steps the other.
Yeah, it was cramped. Yeah. So that teaches you how to deal with like small confined spaces, and just to have, I think I developed my imagination and just kept on to my imagination of my childhood while I was in prison.
Did you try to figure out like signals or ways to communicate that were, that could go under the notice?
Yeah, we would send lines like fishing. Well, we call it fishing lines. So that was to to communicate with each other, to like pass things back and forth, or you would knock on the wall. it was many. I don't want to give up all these
No,
secrets
it's
because
okay.
then
It's
somebody
okay.
may be watching and send word to the commissioner.
No worries. No
Right.
worries. I don't think they're listening
You know,
to us,
it thoughts to me that you only do this to someone you think is a monster. Now, you use the term, I think Sam used the term monster, that the CO saw you that way.
Yeah. Well, it was crazy when they go through the academy. They are taught not to like interact with us because we're monsters. We've committed a sin, and that's why we're here. So, like he said, the pseudo sense of authority. We are the lowest of the low, and we're at the bottom of the totem pole. So it was like
They could do what they want.
they could exactly
For the most part.
For the most part.
And there's been several different cases that have been promoted where this level of abuse has gone to the point where there's been a loss of life. So once again, when you're in this environment and you are hopeful to return to your family because you're fortunate enough to get visits, mail, receive packages and things of that nature, it's not a guarantee. And that's not even if you're getting into trouble anymore. You might actually turn that corner, turn over a new leaf. And this particular officer might feel the need to flex, right? And flex, flex his strength or flex her strength. I think the worst thing that I've seen is the ability for a female officer to make up something about a guy. Like, he flashed me or something to that degree. Because
That never happened.
well, fortunately not to me.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, the actual accusation.
it
man.
happens, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The accusation happens, but the action of the accusation
that
doesn't
never
happen.
took place.
Doesn't
But the investigation isn't legit because maybe an officer might like her. And before you know it, this individual that you were cool with, you might have eaten with this guy. You want to visit with him and his mother, him and his daughter, him and his son, and now he's going to the box. And you're sitting there and you're like, wow. Fortunate that it's not you, but disheartened because it's someone that you know that you're cool with, that you realize has made some level of a stride to be better.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't see where rehabilitation comes in with any of that. I don't.
Yeah.
What did you do to mentally get through what you were living in?
Me, imagination, man. I said the mind is a terrible thing to waste, and with that, I would have like conversations with myself. I would put myself in mentally put myself in different scenarios and like really talk to myself as I was somebody else. Soliloquy, that's the word I'm looking for. Engage in a lot of soliloquy, push-ups, books. If people in the gallery had books, that's where I really got into the Black Panther. And like if it was possible, talk to my neighbor, sneak and talk to my neighbor. Like that's like the only comfort that you really have when you're in a cell.
So you overcame it with your imagination.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you talk out loud to yourself, or just in your brain?
In my brain and out loud. There was one time I almost got put in for mental health evaluation because I was talking to myself, and the CO, and I started laughing, and the CO was like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And I just couldn't stop laughing because I was like, when I was in my cell, it was a different world. It was a different world. Like I could have been in Harlem. I could have been in the Bronx. I could have been at my mom's house. I could have been at a friend's house. I just made it, and it was like the Narnia.
That's
like
amazing.
Yeah, so you got to have strong will to overcome.
You should write about this.
And no, people keep saying that, man.
Do they?
Yeah.
I've done school for 3 years. Like I don't want to write an essay. I don't want to do a thesis. I
I
don't
know
want
what
to
you
do a
mean.
research paper. But
I hear you.
maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe into a children's book. The life and times of Sam
There
Johnson.
you go.
Wow. We were hoping that John J. Professor Richard Hoehler could be with us today.
Mm-hmm.
He conducts an acting workshop at Otisville State Prison, and he's done it for 10 years now.
Yeah.
Amazing guy. He's now teaching an acting class at HB Studios with former incarcerated students, and including Sam and Christopher. And though he couldn't make the recording, I did, because he's in a rehearsal here, a Stephen Fechter play. I spoke with Richard earlier, and I thought we'd play a selection of that conversation right now.
Okay. No problem.
So I'm speaking with Richard Hoehler. He is a professor here at John Jay, but I met him at the Prison to College Pipeline in Otisville. And in fact, this is our second interview because the first one didn't really take.
Right, yeah.
We had problems with the audio at Gephardt's. Since then, we've done any number of podcasts, and everything was fine. But something was screwy that day, and so I'm so happy that you were able to come back and talk with us. We're talking now separately from Chris and Lee because you're rehearsing.
Right.
Tell us a little about what you're rehearsing.
Rehearsing a play called Rehearsing the Wannsee Conference, which is sort of a play within a play within a play. And it's about, it's roughly about the Holocaust, but all the actors are played by young actors of color to make the point that there's a new Holocaust afoot.
Right. And it's written by Stephen Fechter.
That's right.
Who is kind of a resident playwright here at John Jay.
Yeah.
Brilliant playwright. But we're not here necessarily to talk about that. First off, we wanted to thank you for introducing us to your acting students, Christopher
and Sam.
And Sam. How are they doing in your HB class? And they're in a class at HB Studios now with you.
No, they're not. I'm sorry. Yeah, HB Studios. I get so confused. I'm teaching at 3 different places right now, so I'm like, wait a minute. No, they're not in that class. Yes, they are both.
Life can get confusing.
They are both in the acting class at HB Studio, and they're both doing terrific.
Right.
Which doesn't surprise me because they did great when they were in my class on the at Otisville.
Right. And you've been running a workshop at Otisville State Prison, Medium Security Prison.
Coming up on 10 years now.
10 years. It's amazing. I taught there last semester, and as you know, it was an introduction to film class. I found the experience amazing, challenging, fulfilling. I mean, all that stuff.
Right.
I'd never experienced that before. Not sure if I want to go back. And you've been doing it for 10 years now. Why do you keep going back?
It's funny because just the other day, I've had so much going on here with my classes at John Jay and my career stuff and the class at HB, and I thought something's got to give, and I thought maybe I'll take some time off of the prison, and I got there Friday night, and I walked into the room, and in my mind, I said, "There's no way if I cut anything out, it can't be this." I don't know. There's something about. Certainly the gratitude is palpable, but the men really, this is really a lifeline for them, and you can't not recognize that. But on the other side of it, as an actor, as a performer, I get so much from them too. It's a give and take. It's not just a one-way street. The guys asked me that, when I first came there. When it was after I was there. I guess it was about a year.
Your students at Otisville.
Yeah. One of the room got quiet, and one of the guys says, "Rich, how come you come here?"
Yeah.
He said, and then this guy Chaz, he says, "Because I don't get a do-gooder vibe off of you." and I was just sort of like,
"What is the do-gooder? What is that?"
Well, he got the sense that I wasn't there just to,
to get good,
wonderful things,
good grades with God.
I says, I'm here because this is one of the most vibrant, communities in terms of artistically. The work is just phenomenal. They're committed. I said, I come here because it's a great place to get some good theater done.
What kind of theater do you do with them?
It varies. We've done published stuff. We've done original stuff. We've done a mixture of the two. We've done things that I've written, that they've written. It depends. Each time a show starts coming along, it kind of evolves, or we're talking about things, and then we get an idea. Like right now, we're working on a show called No Man is an Island, and they're writing it, and it's kind of based on their stories, intermixed with some sort of other material, and I've been just gathering material from them each week. It's just voluminous, and then I'll create an evening from that. Right, and that'll be playing where? That'll be playing at Otisville State Prison. Right. Yeah. Is there any way that it could go further than that? Well, I don't know about that show, but here's a great example is that Fathers and Sons, which is the show that we did last July at Otisville State Prison. Mm-hmm. We're going to be remounting that at HB Studio at the end of this year. About 4 or 5 of the men that were in the show in prison will be reprising their roles at HB. So that's our first crossover production. Do you get any pushback from the prison officials about bringing material out of the prison? It's tricky because it's very delicate about written material coming in and coming out. You have to be very careful. But when we're doing original shows, they just sort of, it's kind of like homework. Like when I was doing the John Jay class, I've got to take their papers home with me. Mm-hmm. So you could get a CO that gets funky about it, wants to read everything, but most of the time it's okay. It's the thing you got to look out for are personal. Like this, if this is just material for a show, it's one thing. But if somebody were to write a letter to somebody and I were to carry that out, that would be a problem. I would never do that.
Talking about the COs, I found that teaching at the state prison was a real kind of eye-opener about how prisons are run on the ground. And I experienced that all the COs were not equal.
No. There are some very angry, unhappy people, and there's some wonderful people. And it's really a mix. It's a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, there were some wonderful COs, and others were not.
No.
And yet they have all the power.
Yeah, they do.
In that place.
Yeah,
you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Even the teacher, I felt, had to be careful too.
Yeah, well, there's some resentment there, as pointed out, that because these men are being, getting educated. A lot of these COs don't have a college education, and here's the inmates getting more educated than they are. I mean, that I'm sure brings up some things for them.
And they're paying for their daughter's college education.
Right. So it's a complex situation.
Right. Otisville is on the side of a hill overlooking the Hudson Valley.
It's actually like on the top of a hill.
It's gorgeous.
It's a stunning,
amazing view.
Yeah.
From late summer on through autumn. I mean, I was there on through into the winter, and when it was snowing. Has your perspective of prisons changed over the time you've spent in this environment?
Well,
I'm from 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I'd done some writing workshops on Rikers Island. I did that for several years with high school kids. And it was a high school that was on the island. So I didn't really get a sense of being in a prison. It felt like I was in a school and there were, restrictions, but it still felt like a school. But the only thing I knew about prisons was from a lot of the misinformation and bad things we get from film and TV. And I now know, when I see anything that's done about prisons, I can instantly, I'm like, no,
Right.
no.
That's not what it is.
Yeah, no.
Well, what kind of, give an example of something that someone will say to you and you go like, that's a missed idea.
I don't know if it's something that people say, but there's some new show on television, and there was like the guy was in his cell making a cell phone call. Now I guess there's chances that people do get that. But it was just so casual and so easy, and I just thought like, well, where are they living? Like my cell phone I have to leave in my car.
That's
and
right.
I once had the little that connector that makes it go from one thing to another, and like I left it in my pocket by accident. I had to take it all the way out to the car, come back in, be searched all over again,
and no change in your pocket.
So the security is pretty tight. Yeah. So I'm sure things do get in, but
I found it very strange walking out without my cell phone, but then walking out with my wallet.
Right.
And like being totally nothing in my pocket.
I'm starting to enjoy it, though. I'm starting to enjoy like taking my wallet away, taking my phone, my keys, and like I feel kind of like, this is nice.
Yeah. This is a very unusual place, Otisville, or I guess any prison, with the razor wire everywhere, and fences, and gates, and big iron gates. Do you feel at any point that you've gotten used to it, that this has now become norm?
No. I every time I drive up to that gate, and see that huge gate when it opens really slowly, it's like, and I watch the men walking down the hill. I have not become inured to it at all. It still is jarring. Yeah. It's not until I get into my classroom that everything is normal.
Right. Has your teaching changed over the years?
Yes.
Has it affected your classroom teaching here?
I think all my students on the outside benefit from the work I've done on the inside, because there's such an intensity in there, and there's such a demand for to progress and to move, and they want challenges, and so I tend to keep raising the bar. So when I come into one of my regular acting classes now, I sort of come in at a much higher level than I used to.
Wow, and maybe higher expectations.
Yeah, well, I have to tell myself to calm down a little bit there, but they and then they give me things that I can bring into the prison. There's a nice synergy between the working inside and outside.
Richard Hoehler, thank you very much. I know you have to get to rehearsal for the new play. Say the name again. Rehearsing
the Wannsee Conference.
Can anyone come by and see it?
Yeah, well, it's I think they've got announcements. It's free, but you have to. It's sold out. The whole run sold out last fall. That's why they're bringing it back.
I had a hard time getting in.
And so I don't know, but they say they're going to have a sign up like the day before, and if you just get on the list, you're in. So
yeah, any chance of it going further?
I have no idea. We didn't expect it to be revived. Apparently this is the first time a show has ever been revived.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richard, very much.
Sure.
This is Barcrawl Radio recording in the podcast studio at John Jay College. We have been talking with two former inmates in the New York State prison system who are part of a prison-to-college pipeline at John Jay College.
Christopher, you wrote us when we first were doing this show about the prison-to-college pipeline that this program was a game changer for you because it provided, and this is a quote from what you wrote us, a sense of normalcy greatly needed in an abnormal environment.
Absolutely.
Right, that the John Jay program gave you, quote, a professional network unavailable in the neighborhoods most of you grew up in. It was a, quote, new exposure to resources that do not exist within your communities. Could you talk a little bit about what did Prison to College Pipeline mean to you while you were at Otisville and maybe now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's proper to start somewhere and then go backwards, but I'd like to start from where I sit right now. Mm-hmm. And the ability to come home and have a network provided to where they care about your everyday necessity. The ability for you to go to school and receive higher education so you'll learn more and be able to do more with the knowledge that you are given, but the ability to care about whether you eat, clothing, to attempt to find you housing, employment, and things of that nature. I don't think there's a program that exists within the confines of prison when it comes to higher education. What this program hasn't been able to provide was a degree. But sometimes when you receive that degree, then you're sent off into the real world to do, who knows what to find whatever it is you're looking for. Having an opportunity to go to college inside of prison, it did wonders for me as an individual. I like to believe that I've always been intelligent. There are just times in my life where I've made bad decisions. So it might be hard for someone to believe that. It's helped with my vernacular, helped me expand, greatly with the things that I didn't know or things that I knew, but I couldn't put the name attached to it. The professors that I've met, they've been great. They've provided me with great levels of insight about, everyday stuff. And then, as he mentioned, we studied political science. So we're learning about things outside of, our reach, seemingly. Learned that there's this misconception that when it comes to politics at times, your voice won't count. And maybe that's the case. However, knowing that you have the ability to make a difference because you are given the opportunity to vote, regardless of how it turns out, I didn't know that before I had the opportunity to sit inside of a class in Otisville for John Jay. I currently do not attend school. However, they are supporting me, through every endeavor that I find upon being released. I came down here, I want to say, maybe short of 2 weeks ago, and they provide you with an academic counselor, and they see to it that you get the services that you need to survive and just become better.
So you're not taking any courses right now?
Not at this current moment, no.
Are you planning to?
So since we're talking about that, not just being honest, having the opportunity to be in society after going to school makes me understand, not that it's not a necessity, because I don't want to say that. I think education is very, very important. It's essential every day that you wake up to learn something new. I don't believe that if I did not go back to school, I wouldn't find what you would call success. So that's where I stand right now. So at this moment, I'm not going back right now. Doesn't mean that tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but next month, I might not have a change out. But as we stand right now, no.
You're a young man. Life is long.
Yeah.
And, minds are changed. And this might be the correct path for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sam, what about you? Prison to college pipeline.
Oh, the prison to college pipeline is like no other program I've ever indulged in, right? Oh, everybody is awesome from P2CP, Nakia, Combe.
Shout out to Nakia.
Yeah, shout out to Nakia.
Who are these people?
Huh?
Who are these people?
All these people that are across the street and give me a hard time when I walk in. They're like, oh, God, Sam again? Yeah. I just want the snacks and I just want a merch card, please. But I'll stay there and I'll chop it up with you a little bit. Shout out to Amy and everybody in that little office there. Yeah. Okay, they've been amazing. Baz,
this is in the BMW building.
The BMW building.
Right across the street.
Yeah, Baz, the founder of it, she's amazing. Bianca, everybody's just, I'm going to just piggyback off what he said, like the vernacular and just being around a group of men who are in the same situation as me and just keep just thriving and just climbing the ladder of success in their own way. Know what I mean? And just motivating me and motivating everybody else just to do the same. Like before, like, I guess you'd be considered lame for wanting to go to college, and now it was like they made it cool. Know what I and just the overnight debates and like the after school arguments that we had and the studying
for midterms.
The in class arguments.
Those got heated.
Terrible.
Definitely.
So you would have debates in the dorm?
Yeah, we would have.
They created a college dorm.
Yeah.
And so now you go to school with these individuals,
and you live with them.
And then you live with them. So you're like, I think we at one point
we was across from each other.
So it's like, yo, did you get the homework or did you study? And then you have opportunity to kind of connect, and it made the experience that much more fun. And it worked.
Yeah,
it worked. 4 semesters.
I ain't gonna lie. School, that was when school was so much. It was fire. It was so fun. I have to use some slang in here now. School was so fun just being in the dorm with these guys, right? It was nothing else. We had one dude, his name Joey Diaz. Shout out to Joey. What's up, Googie? Right? And he was the big brother. He was the big brother of the dorm because he A+ student.
Yeah,
he
definitely.
didn't get no lower grade.
Definitely.
Shout out to King Chief too. Don't want to leave him out because he's watching, right? But he would. I remember one time our third semester when we had political science, history, and what was the other, sociology, right?
Yeah.
We were just shooting the breeze, playing chess, and Googie would like, he would walk past like, he was like, so you did the homework? And we were like, what homework are you talking about? He's like, okay.
Yeah.
Right? So like he kept us on our toes. And like there have been times where we just the homework was stressful and like, or we just got into a heated debate. It could have been anybody inside the dorm. Everybody, the classmates, whatever. We just stopped talking to each other because we had different agreements.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Definitely. But for the right reasons, though.
Yeah, exactly.
So here you have, right, animals, monsters, having the ability to debate, not about how to hurt someone or to get away with a crime. The ability for us to debate about
why that women's circumcision is unjust, or why
absolutely
does
Africa, right?
Yeah, in Africa. Or why does Saddam Hussein during the it was something that happened. No, why Agent Orange?
Okay,
why the United States need to pay back? What was it, Cambodia?
Vietnam.
And why
Cambodia.
why the United States need to pay back Vietnam for Agent Orange?
Right.
And things like that. So going back and forth from topics
I think
like
it'd be
this.
really interesting for you to take a course here and compare it to the experience of taking a same course
that would be,
in Otisville.
Probably would be pretty.
Sam, are you in college?
I'm not gonna lie. I was enrolled in college, right? And I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I withdrew, right? It was first being home from prison, like for 3 or 4 months. Like my life is going on, like getting on track, and it's probably not happening as fast as I want it to be. And right now, I want to do school, but my mind and my heart is not into it. And being inside the classrooms here, I'm only taking 2 classes. It's not the same. It's not the same energy.
Yeah.
As it was in
Talk
prison.
about that. What's different?
First off, like the people in prison are way more engaging. Like there have been times where the professor has like a schedule. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about, and like we said, the discussions inside class deviate, so we don't even end up covering everything that's on the syllabus.
Yeah,
right. And here,
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and here is a bunch of I'm about to say 16-year-olds. I'm crazy. 19, 20, 22, 23-year-olds who are on their phone there. You got the teacher. I keep saying teacher and professor. Professors make about 30 or 40 more thousand more than the teacher, right? But you got the professor saying, okay, does anybody have anything to say? And like I'm probably like the only person who keeps throwing up their hand, and the professor's like, let somebody else talk. Let somebody else talk. 'Cause
it is very difficult. I mean, I'm a professor here at John Jay, and to produce conversation in the classroom, it's really, really difficult. When I was out at Otisville,
You
There
couldn't
was
stop them
no
from
problem.
producing.
Yeah.
It'd be 3:30 before you know it.
That's
Yeah.
The bell's
absolutely.
ringing. I vividly remember, and like you said, it was we debated for the right reasons though, just to be able to try to give our input pertaining to a certain topic. I remember we had a semester where the first class we had a paper due. Remember that?
Hell, that was history.
Yeah. Shout out to Professor Hoehler.
Yeah,
too.
shout out to
She's-
Professor Hoehler.
she's
She
the
wild
best
us
for-
up.
She's the best for pushing us to our fullest potential. The first class we had a paper due. Before we even met her, we had to do a paper. I had like 14 papers that semester, right?
Was it political science? She was crazy.
I'm not going to use that terminology.
Okay,
I'm gonna disagree.
it was absurd the amount of work she cheated us. She cheated us like we were in Columbia University or Harvard or so.
Which paid off in the end, man.
Yeah,
Because
it
look at us
did.
now. I mean,
It
we're
really
sitting here
pushed.
doing an interview with Barcrawl podcast.
Yeah,
So,
There you
you guys
go.
are awesome.
I mean,
There you go.
Why don't you go to your question there? The what are the continuing challenges?
Oh yeah. What are the continuing challenges now that now that you're out?
Okay, I'm gonna answer this. Me, continuing challenges. For me, I guess it would be housing. I live home with my mom, and I live with my sister, and I live with a dog. And my sister's friend stays with us. It's too crowded, and me, I got one job that I really, really enjoy, and it's not paying as much as I would like it to. So I'm looking for a second source of income, which can be difficult because, you still got that background. So a short story, I applied for something, after school program called Harlem Children's Zone, right, which is in Harlem because the name is Harlem Children's Zone, right? So the position I applied for was called the Sports Recreation Specialist. So basically, I'm an after-school gym teacher, an after-school personal trainer. So I went, and as a part of the Department of Education, you got to get fingerprinted. I went through the interview process. The supervisor at the location wants me to work there. The other supervisor heard good things. He hired me. But, Albany gets involved because you have to get the background check. So I get a letter in the mail saying that I can't work there from Albany, and that I would have to write a letter on my behalf or get a letter from friends and or family, co-workers.
What about professors?
Or professors stating that, speaking on my behalf. So I wrote a letter on my behalf, right, saying like, okay, this is what happened. I take atonement for what I've done. I sent them, like, no lie, 23 or 26 certifications, things that I've received while I was in prison, things that certifications that I received while I came home. And I've only been home about 90 days at the time. I sent them my certification, or not certification, but my award stating that I've made the dean list. I had a 3.5 GPA grade point average while I was in college, and my letters from my professors that you get from at the end of the year, and that wasn't enough. They said that still was not enough evidence saying that I've been rehabilitated.
So this is Albany saying that?
This is Albany.
The people that hired you, though, they knew you had been in prison.
Because I was honest with them.
Yeah,
and they
and
want me.
and they want you.
Yes, and the kids at the location, they like me.
I don't get that. I'm sorry, I do not. That's upsetting. I don't understand that. The people that they want to hire you, and someone in Albany says no, you can't hire.
Who doesn't even know you,
Yeah,
didn't even meet
Doesn't
you.
even know you.
Yeah, right now I'm in the second phase where I appealed it with a lady from the BM. I forgot her name, but she's a lawyer, and we're just now it's just playing the waiting game, and hopefully I'll get approved. But who's to say that the offer is still on the table because so much time went by, So it's just that's like the
Will that open up though? If that job is not available, would that open it up for you to get hired somewhere else though, or would you have to go through the same thing each time?
I don't know. I really,
don't
because
know.
this is my
Yeah.
really first time actually going through like the doing the footwork and actually finding a job, which is, it's not hard, but it's hard at the same time because you want to find something that you don't want to settle. Nobody wants to settle and say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do construction and make $15 an hour, which is, I guess, is all right depending on who you are. But I already know my goals and my aspirations, and I know my potential and what I can do,
Right.
and how I can probably change somebody else's life. And And I know construction or being a porter in a restaurant isn't suitable for me. However, at the same time, I'll have to bite my tongue and be humble and take what I can take, because, you know, I still have that. I'm a pariah in a sense because I have that mark of being a felon in the society.
Education will help you get
Absolutely.
further.
Yes.
Just saying.
Boy,
Yes.
Sam and Chris, I mean, this is so unfair what you have to go through.
I mean, you know, as much as you know, you can sit down and you can fail like that. That's a daunting task. You know, when you're coming from the bottom, trying to get to the top. So when you talk about challenges, you know, I can understand where he's coming from. I think my first week in home, I was interviewed for a seasonal job, and up until the point where the employer asked me if I'd ever been incarcerated, everything was fine. Like, we're talking just regular, like we're talking here. And once that came up, like, I wish I could have taken the way that she looked at me after the fact and put that into a portrait, because it was like, wait, what?
Wow.
But it wasn't until you knew that you decided you were going to judge me. But I'll say this. A challenge for me is being able to be the person that I know that I truly am. Every day that I wake up. I think we all as people throughout our journey in life would like to get to that ideal version of ourselves. And after you've made so many bad decisions, you want nothing more. I want nothing more than to be able to not only fix my situation and those of other people, because I don't think I'll be free as a person until I'm able to free someone else. You understand what I'm saying? So there's a kid out there right now that's on the verge of being incarcerated at 16 years old, that's going to go through the same, if not worse than what Sam went through at that age, that I might have went through at 17 years old. And, you know, it's not going to turn out for the best. So I feel like every day that I wake up, that's my main objective, having the opportunity to be a part of something like this. Just to be able to give people some level of hope so they don't feel bad. I don't want empathy. I don't want sympathy. I want to be heard, and for someone else to say, you know what? I'm going to take what he's saying and I'm going to do something better than what I was already doing, because being sad is not going to change anything. We can't get the time back that we lost. Only thing we can do is focus on where we sit right now so that tomorrow is better than yesterday. I have this question that I posed before. What are you willing to do today so that tomorrow is not like yesterday? Like, we'd be insane to think that somebody's going to feel sorry enough for us to give us a job. Like, you know, I feel so sorry for you. That's not the way America works. That's not the way New York works. So,
But wouldn't it be nice if it did?
It'd be awesome.
You know?
I don't know. I mean, what type of world will we have, I guess, right? What type of, like, if I took the time out to think that way, I wouldn't make it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make it.
Yeah. Because you have to deal with the reality.
You have to. You got to stay in this moment and be present. And I'm approaching 4 months out of prison. What keeps me humble are the individuals that are still inside of there. You know, my family members, my close friends, the people that I've met along this journey, on this path that I'm on now, the people that watch my live shows, the people that comment on my pictures. I attempt to make sure that everything that I do is in accordance with who I am as a person now, as opposed to who they thought, or maybe who I thought I was, by committing a crime and things of that nature. So it's okay that people don't want to give you a chance. It's okay that he didn't get hired, because why would you want to be in an environment where somebody doesn't really want you anyway?
Yeah.
They wanted him, but then the powers that be had other plans. So he'll find something way better than that.
Yeah.
And then look at that and say, that couldn't stop me. Because prison couldn't stop us. So not getting a job, it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
So helping younger people is really a great idea.
Absolutely.
And I'm just curious, though, what would you say to yourself, if you could,
Your younger
as a
self.
your younger self?
Oh, man. If
If
I had
you
the
could look
opportunity-
back to your 15-year-old self and say, I'm going to tell you something.
If I had the opportunity to talk to a younger version of myself, I would tell him, first and foremost, to stay brave. Stay brave, because any event that you ever lose a step when it comes to that, you're not going to make it. When you have to stand in front of a judge, and to the right of you, I believe that's how the courtroom is set up, and there's a jury of your peers, stuff that you see only on TV, and these 14 people are deliberating about your fate, you're going to have to stay brave. When you are sentenced by this judge that sat and presided over your case, where there's a DA and a judge, and a lawyer that's supposed to be there to defend you. You gotta stay brave. When you go to prison and you have to fight over chairs and little boxes of cereal and what we're gonna watch on TV tonight or who has next on the phone, you gotta stay brave. When you go to a parole board, and anything that you might come in contact with because of the lifestyle that we chose to live, you're gonna have to stay brave. The job, they don't want you. They said that you got a background. Stay brave. It's gonna happen. That opportunity that you really want, if you really want it, it's gonna come. Like anything you want in this world, I assure you, from what I can see being back home from prison, I have some good days and very little bad days because I don't take things personal. So I would definitely tell my younger self to stay brave, protect your energy, and just be who you are. Because that's a lot easier. When you're not who you are, it's like it's Halloween every day. Just imagine that if you wore a mask, not because of the coronavirus, but because you thought that you was, just think of that. What type of world would we live in? You walk, that's at 42nd Street? You have guys or maybe even young ladies under those costumes that are taking pictures with kids and tourists. Imagine if you had to wear that every day, that costume.
That's hard.
It has to be hard.
Yeah.
You got to look in the mirror and you got to peel back some layers and say, you know what? I'm not that person, you know, and this is who I am. And you got to just stay the course. That's it. Stay brave.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
it.
How about you, Sam?
I would go back and tell my younger self, just be honest with who you are as a person. Look in the mirror and that's who you are. You don't have to pretend to be anybody for anybody else. Don't force yourself on people. However, don't let anybody force themselves on you. And I'm not talking about the physical force. I'm talking about like mental and emotional force, right? Become that reflection that you see in the mirror and don't judge, right? And don't let others judge you because the reflection doesn't judge you. So that's it.
Okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. We're going to finish up, but I know, Chris, you're an entertainer.
Absolutely.
Why don't you say a little bit about what you do?
So entertainment, clearly that would kind of be an umbrella, and then you got music, acting, modeling falls under there. I think my biggest passion, excuse me, aside from helping at-risk youth, would definitely be in the form of making music,
Right.
writing lyrics. I'm a singer / I guess rapper.
Tell us about what we're going to play now at the end of the show.
So this is a song that I've had the opportunity to compile while being in prison. As much as I told you about the support that I received from individuals that felt like I was worth the investment, you know, coming to visit me, writing me letters, sending me money orders and things of that nature, packages. There are those individuals that don't believe that maybe your sentence won't end, that maybe you won't be better than you once were. They choose not to associate themselves with you until you are removed from that environment. And I wrote a song called FOME. So it's F.O.M.E.
Just so FOME stands for
flexing on my ex. Instead of being mad that someone decided to leave you for dead, let's just use that terminology, just flex on them. Like I was in prison, right, where I couldn't be heard unless I would call on the phone or send a letter. And sometimes you get not the middle finger, you get a finger that says return to sender. Because maybe they moved or maybe they just don't want to talk to you anymore.
Jeez.
So now this is my opportunity, not to get even, because I'm better, not bitter. So I'm going to send you a song called Flexing on My Ex. So that way people can listen to it and maybe it could be a form of motivation. Don't cut up tires and cut clothes and bleach stuff. Just flex on them. Do better than you once did, and they'll be able to watch. Because social media is right here. That's just how this thing goes.
Yeah.
Flex
We
on
could use it for good stuff.
This is barcrawlradio, recording at the podcast studio of the English Department of John Jay College of Criminal Justice. We have been talking with Christopher Lee and Sam Johnson, actors and citizens of our great city. Thank you both for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having us here.
I'm sure there's much more we could talk about, but this was, I'm glad we got it done.
Definitely. This was awesome.
Great. And you're going to send me that file.
Say that. This gon' F the city up. Flexing, 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 flexing. I got those bottles in my section. I got models in my section. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. I got all these bottles in my section. Say that. I got all these models in my section. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. This for ain't shit that always doubted me. Damn. They can't hit my line to get no clout of me. Nah. See me in my section, it's a movie. When we step in, whole team drippy and we flex. AP and protection. Don't need a hater to protect them. Nah. Say that. Plus my new bitch got you jealous. Yep. Maybach, you gon' notice when we exit. Hate that, feel like Diddy on the record. Take that, got all these bottles in my section. I got all these models in my section. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. You hear me? I got all these bottles in my section. I got all these models in my section. Say that. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. Think of we lawyers with all of these cases. Ain't in my aura to fuck with a basic. It ain't my fault you couldn't be patient. I had a dream, so I had to chase it. In my DOs, could've been yours. I had to win. You took a loss, so pull up a punch. Aura is awesome. Look at the fortress, hard to ignore. I came from the projects, now I ain't stopping. You should just forfeit. Go get a ref. Fuck, they gon' call us. I'm on the court, addicted to bowling. You got the flu, sicker than Jordan. Feel like I'm Harden. Drip on the faucet. Go get a sponsor. You live in a Target. Got all these bottles in my section. I got all these models in my section. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. I got all these bottles in my section. I got all these models in my section. I'm just out here flexing, doing better than my exes, and I hope they get this message. Say that. Again. All or nothing, nothing at all.